Hi friends, welcome to this special bonus episode about how to manage your career during a crisis. At the time I am recording this podcast, we are just starting a nationwide self-isolation, social distancing, and canceling of all gatherings due to the coronavirus or COVID-19. I am not going to talk about what you should or shouldn't do regarding this virus or the recommendations. You need to do your homework and figure out what makes sense for you and your family. I will say, my husband and I regularly check the CDC website, and we don't watch the news anyway, so that's not really a source of information for us. This podcast is going to focus on how to manage your career during a crisis. The current crisis happens to be a new virus, but in the future, there could be a different crisis, and these tips will still apply. Think about Y2K or the crash of 2008. These were all events that impacted the world of work in different ways. I want to start with making sure you know and understand how you react, function, and manage during a crisis situation. Being able to identify this will help you figure out the best way to move forward and where your blind spots might be during a crisis. I believe there are 3 types of professionals in a crisis. The first is the level-headed professional. Then we have the overreacting professional. And third, we have the I don't care, it's probably not real anyway professional. Now I know we wish we were all the level-headed professional, but we're not. The level-headed professional is someone who is usually a natural leader. They do their research on reputable websites, think through the implications of a crisis on multiple levels, from how it will impact the company, to the staff, to customers, to the larger industry and the world. And they are a go-to person for people who need reassurance because they are calm and provide logical advice. Then we have the overreacting professional, who is the person who goes to worst case scenario immediately. They will often take in information from multiple sources, but not confirm any of the information with reputable sources before sharing it, usually loudly, to anyone who will listen. In an office setting, this person can cause others who are normally level-headed to panic because of their intensity around the information they are sharing. While I'm sure we have all known or know someone like this, I want to ask you to have empathy with these professionals. This could be someone who suffers from anxiety, and a crisis situation heightens that anxiety. They might know someone impacted by the crisis and they are struggling or scared for that person. While our first reaction might be to roll our eyes or ignore them, I want to ask you to seek them out and talk to them. Starting the conversation with something like, "Hey, I noticed this situation is really impacting you. Is everything okay?" Helping someone talk about their fears can help them process through the situation and helps you have empathy for them and others in their position. Having said that, there are people who overreact just because. Usually it's because of how they were raised and what they observed, or behavior they have been allowed to display in the workplace. If you are someone who manages these professionals, I would consider having a conversation around what is appropriate to share in the workplace and how it is shared in the workplace. You always want to seek to understand first, but sometimes that's not possible or can be difficult. Finally, we have the I don't care, it's probably not real anyway professional. These professionals are usually fairly level-headed, but possibly in denial of what is happening around them. This could be a coping mechanism or simply just their personality. The concern for these professionals is their lack of attention to recommendations and suggestions from authorities and how to conduct themselves in a crisis. In the case of the COVID-19 pandemic, these people might not be washing their hands, practicing social distancing, and might possibly run out of food. While this is an extreme example, these are professionals that might need a reality check if they are being careless, depending on the crisis at hand. So, which professional are you? Be honest. Look at your behavior during this current crisis or a past crisis and be honest with yourself about how you're showing up or have shown up in the past. It might be that you're a combination of all of these examples, which is fine too. The point of identifying this in yourself is being realistic about how you handle and manage extremely stressful situations and immediate change. Now that we have that out of the way, what does a crisis mean for your career? Well, it depends. A crisis has the ability to have a major impact on the economy. If we look back at 2008, a lot of people lost their jobs and retirement investments. But do you know what thrived? Higher education. When people lost their jobs, they went back to school to gain new skills and to bide time. The result? Well, unfortunately, quite a few overeducated and underexperienced professionals who had a hard time finding a job. So why does this information matter? Well, some of you might find yourself in a situation where you lose your job. But I want to encourage you to not jump on the education train too early. And this is said from someone who spent 9 years in higher education. I believe in education, and I believe there are careers where additional education is important, but not all careers. Before you let a savvy recruiter talk you into an additional degree you probably can't afford, make sure you know where you are headed in your career. For those of you who are going to be working from home due to COVID-19, I would encourage you to use this time to explore where your career is headed. If you aren't quite sure, listen to season 1 of this podcast where I explore the question, should I quit my job? It will take you through questions and exercises that can help you find clarity around the future of your career. Before you get at me about using company time to do this, that's not what I'm suggesting. Most of you are getting a significant amount of time back in the way of not having to commute. Use that time to do this work. A national and worldwide crisis can evoke a lot of emotions and feelings that most of us don't normally feel. You might start questioning the work you do or start thinking about what really matters. In some cases, you are learning about the integrity of your organization, and it might not be great. All these feelings can cause us to make irrational emotional decisions when it comes to our career. Believe me, as someone who lost both parents and had a child in under a 2-year span, and then I also quit my job, partially because they couldn't accommodate the flexibility I needed in my schedule, I know about making irrational emotional decisions. While I wouldn't change the decision I made in my own personal crisis at the time, I definitely could have made clearer decisions and considered the long-term impact of the decisions I made. All that to say, you need to approach your career decisions with a clear and level head and as much information as you can get when possible. For those of you questioning your career, now is a great time to take the steps to update your materials and start talking to people in your network. Even if you aren't sure where you want to go, you can still talk to others and learn more about what they do and how they got there. For those of you who want to stay put, you like your job, and you have an organization who handles crisis well, this is about how you can take advantage of this time and develop your skills. Is there professional development you can do while working from home or while operations are slow? For those who are looking to get into people management role at some point, think about how you can support your coworkers and manager, especially if everyone is working remotely. Check in with people, even the people you don't like. Be an advocate for them and help them be successful. Ask your manager how you can help them during this time. Honestly, simply asking others how they're doing will have a huge impact. I know for some of you, this isn't a natural activity to do, and it might make you uncomfortable. But if advancing and moving up in your career was comfortable, there would be a lot more people at the top. And in case you haven't noticed, the top is pretty lonely. Use this time to stretch yourself and grow. Go listen to the episode on how to set intentional goals for your career. This is a good place to start, and it goes over 3 actionable goals anyone can take in their career. Some of them I mentioned here already, but this episode goes in more depth and has a fun worksheet you can use to brainstorm. I could definitely add more to this episode, but I'm going to stop here. I've gone over enough for the majority of you to start evaluating how you show up in a crisis situation, and I gave you some strategies to consider about your career during a crisis. If you have any questions or would like to connect on social, you can follow Ride the Tide Collective on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.